Ethan Miller had known Claire Bennett for nearly 3 years, yet he had never found the courage to tell her how deeply he cared. They worked together at a small community library in Portland, Oregon, where Ethan managed old records and Claire organized reading programs for children. Every morning, Claire arrived with coffee and a bright smile, making the quiet building feel warm and alive. Ethan looked forward to seeing her more than he wanted to admit. They shared lunch, helped each other after work, and laughed about everything. Still, Ethan convinced himself that Claire saw him only as a trusted friend, so he kept his feelings hidden. One cold Friday evening, heavy rain covered the streets of Portland. Most people had already gone home, but Claire stayed behind to finish preparing for a children's event. Ethan offered to help, and together they carried colorful books and decorations into the storage room. When the work was finished, Claire sat quietly at a nearby table and opened an elegant white envelope. Ethan noticed a wedding invitation inside. "Another wedding?" he asked with a smile. Claire nodded, but her expression seemed unusually sad. "My younger sister is getting married next month," she said softly. "Everyone around me is moving forward, and I'm still waiting." Ethan sat across from her, unsure how to respond. Claire had always appeared cheerful and confident, but now she looked tired and lonely. She slowly traced the edge of the invitation and said, "Sometimes I wonder whether I'll ever meet the right person. Maybe I missed my chance." Ethan wanted to tell her that she had never been alone, that someone had cared about her for years, but fear stopped him. He believed Claire deserved a man with more money, a bigger house, and a more exciting life. Instead, he gave her the safest answer he could think of. "Claire, whoever marries you will be incredibly lucky." For a moment, Claire said nothing. The rain continued falling against the library windows, and the room became completely quiet. Ethan expected her to laugh or thank him, but she slowly looked into his eyes. Her expression changed, carrying a mixture of hope and disappointment. "Do you really believe that?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Of course. You're kind, funny, patient, and you make everyone feel important. Any man would be lucky to have you." Claire lowered her eyes, then held the invitation tightly. Ethan wondered why she looked upset. He had meant every word, but somehow his compliment had made the distance between them feel even greater. Claire stood and walked toward the window. After several seconds, she turned back toward him. Her eyes were shining, and her voice was barely louder than the rain. "I was hoping it would be you," she whispered. Ethan froze. He could not move or speak. The words repeated in his mind while his heart beat faster. Claire quickly looked away, embarrassed by her confession. "Forget I said that," she added. "I shouldn't have made things awkward." But Ethan knew he could not pretend anymore. For 3 years he had hidden behind friendship, because he was afraid of losing her. Now, standing in the quiet library, he realized that saying nothing might make him lose her anyway. Ethan remained standing, beside the table, unable to believe what Claire had just said. For years, he had imagined this moment, but now that it was real, fear returned. Claire picked up her coat and avoided looking at him. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "You don't have to say anything. I misunderstood our friendship." Ethan watched her walk toward the library entrance, and suddenly he remembered every moment they had shared. The mornings she brought him coffee, the evenings they stayed late together, and the way she always believed in him. He realized that silence had protected his fear, but it had never protected his heart. Before Claire reached the door, Ethan called her name. She stopped, but did not turn around. He walked toward her slowly, hearing the rain against the windows. "You didn't misunderstand anything," he said. Claire faced him, confusion filling her eyes. Ethan took a deep breath and continued. "I've wanted to tell you how I feel for a long time. I just thought you deserved someone better than me." Claire stared at him for a moment, then shook her head. Better? She asked. Ethan, I never wanted a perfect person. I wanted someone who listened, cared, and made me feel safe. Ethan felt his eyes grow warm. He had spent years believing that his small apartment, ordinary job, and quiet life made him unworthy of Claire. But she had never asked for wealth or excitement. She had only wanted him to be honest. I love you, Ethan finally said. The words came out softly, but they carried everything he had hidden for 3 years. Claire smiled through tears. I was beginning to think you would never say it. Ethan laughed, nervously, and Claire stepped closer. When he gently held her hand, neither of them needed another explanation. Outside, the storm continued, but inside the library, everything felt peaceful. They left the building together beneath Ethan's large black umbrella. Instead of driving home, they walked to a small cafe that stayed open late. They talked for hours about the moments when they had almost confessed their feelings. Claire admitted that she had started loving Ethan during their first year at the library, when he quietly helped an elderly visitor find a book without making her feel embarrassed. Ethan confessed that he had fallen for Claire when she spent her entire weekend organizing a reading event for children. They laughed when they realized they had both been waiting for the other person to speak first. 1 year later, Ethan and Claire returned to the same library, but this time they were dressed for their wedding. Their closest, friends and family filled the reading room, with flowers, music, and warm smiles. After the ceremony, they stood beside the table where Claire had opened the wedding invitation. Ethan held her hands and whispered, You once said you hoped I would be the one. Claire smiled and replied, I never stopped hoping. Ethan looked around at the place where their story began and said, Then I was right. Whoever marries you is the luckiest person alive. Claire kissed him gently and answered, And today, that person is you.